we heard Bob say that he thinks the co-op is a scalable model, that other universities can adopt it, particularly if faculty drop their animus toward industry, if you will. We heard him say that it's scalable, even as Kettering itself is relatively small, about 1,600 students. So I'd love to imagine with you how one might scale this model. I think it's not hard to imagine perhaps how a new university might build around a co-op model, but if you were a more comprehensive university, I know you've said it's the end of comprehensive U for many, but you're sitting there existing with lots of different majors. You've got humanities majors, STEM majors, social science, right? The range of things. Could you move to a co-op model? And if so, how would you do it?
Yeah. So first of all, I think you can. I don't think it's as easy as many people think it is. And I think that's why so many universities don't do it, at least require it across the curriculum. I think it's less about the animus that faculty have against industry. It's more that they just think their discipline is the most important thing, and they don't necessarily want to open up room in the curriculum for jobs, essentially. So I think that's part of the problem, is that do we have to create some room in the curriculum? Then the second thing is we do have to find all of these employers. Even Northeastern tells us often that it's hard to set up all these employer partnerships, which often has to be a centralized office. So that's a whole infrastructure that you have to build. This is where I do think if we had intermediaries, the way that Ryan Craig talks about them in the apprenticeship world, could we have intermediaries in the co-op world that help set up these entities or these partnerships with employers? Because if you don't have the partnerships with employers, then it's hard for students to find those co-ops. It's very bespoke to them, much like it is with internships, and then I'm not quite sure it's really part of the curriculum. And then you have to figure out, okay, what do we do mainly for those majors that don't lead necessarily to very specific jobs? You just mentioned the humanities, which I think is a really good one. So what are the industries that you're going to have students participate in? And then how do you develop kind of what I would call student learning outcomes? Northeastern does a really interesting thing on this, Michael, is that before you go into a co-op, you need to talk about what you want to learn out of it, how you're going to prepare for it. It's really kind of going into almost a new job. And then when you come out of the co-op, you write about and you talk about your kind of learning outcomes, which I don't think happens enough in higher education in general, letting students drive those conversations. So that's how I would set this up. But there's a decent amount of infrastructure there. That's problem one. So I think that's why having an external partner, having an intermediary do that, I think is critically important. And then second, I do think we have to rethink the curriculum in a way, because otherwise we're going to basically add a year on top of probably what is already the 4-year degree, right? What do you think?